this is Dr. Morales, and today we are going to go over lesson 8-1, understand percent. The essential question: how can you represent a rate with 100 as the whole? At the end of the lesson, you'll be able to represent and find the percent of a whole. So remember, you are going to complete this. You're going to watch this video and complete the packet together with me. So make sure you have your packet, and we're going to start on page 481. So let's get started. So page 481, the problem says that Tom made a vegetable pizza and a pepperoni pizza. He cut the vegetable pizza into 5 equal slices and the pepperoni pizza into 10 equal slices. Tom's friends ate 2 slices of the vegetable pizza and 4 slices of the pepperoni pizza. Okay, so here's the pizza. And now we're going to see what do they want me to do. So part A says to draw lines on each rectangle to represent the equal slices into which each pizza was cut. So vegetable pizza was 5 equal slices. So let's do our best to make 5 equal slices. So that's 2, that's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so that's more or less, okay? 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 equal slices here. And now we're going to look at the pepperoni pizza was cut into 10 equal slices. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with 5 and then I'm going to cut it in half so I can get 10. So that's 3, that's 4, and 5. So when I go here, I'm going to have 5. And like I said, pretend these are equal pieces. When you do it on your packet, please try to use a ruler. So now I'm going to go in the middle. So if I cut, remember I had 5 and I go in the middle, I'll be able to have exactly 10 slices. And like I said, pretend these are even. Try to use a ruler when you do your packet. Okay. So part A is done. We drew lines to represent the slices. Now, part B says, Tom says his friends ate the same amount of vegetable pizza as pepperoni pizza. How could this be true? Okay, so let's find out how much pizza the friends ate. So for the vegetable pizza, they ate 2 slices. So I'm going to shade in 2 slices of the vegetable pizza. These are 2 slices. This is what it was eaten on the vegetable pizza. Now the pepperoni pizza, they ate 4 slices. Now remember, the slices are a little smaller, but they ate 4 of these. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. Okay, so now is this the same amount? Let's see. So we're going to write a fraction. So the fraction will be the 2 slices representing how much was eaten. So for the vegetable, it was 2 out of 5 pieces. And for the pepperoni pizza, 4 slices out of 10 pizzas were eaten. So is this the same amount? So the only way for you to find out if it's the same amount is if these fractions are equivalent. Now equivalent fractions have the same value. So you can check just the way you do in ratios. How do you go from 5 to 10? Oh, you multiply by 2. So 5 times 2 equals 10. Is this the same when you multiply 2 times 2? Would that give you 4? Yes, it would. So therefore, yes, these are equivalent fractions. So the answer is yes. They ate the same amount of pizza because 2 over 5 and 4 over 10 are equivalent fractions. So now let's move on to the next page. This is page 482. We're going to go over example 1. Example 1 says, what percent of people prefer bright white toothpaste. Okay, so here's the picture. So we have the toothpaste, and first let's talk about what is a percent. A percent is a rate in which the first term is compared to 100. So whenever you're talking about percent, we're going to think of that number 100. The percent is the number of hundreds that represents the part of the whole. That's the definition of percent. So now let's look at this information over here on this clipboard. It says that 7 out of 10 people prefer bright white toothpaste. So 7 out of 10 people. So the question is, what percent of people prefer bright white toothpaste? So I know it's 7 out of 10. I know that 7 out of 10. But to find the percent, I need to know how many people, what percent out of 100, because it's a rate in which the first term is compared to 100. So there are 3 ways that we can do this one. So we're going to start with one way. One way to do it is to use a grid to represent the percent. Now in a grid, since these are percent, in a grid is like a square that has 100 little units. So it's going to be 10 by 10. So if you count the number of little squares going across, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 going across and 10 going down. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So remember, the 100 grid is 10 by 10 because 10 times 10 is 100. So here they want to know what percent is 7 out of 10. So remember, going down is 10 of this. So 7/10 will be 7 of these columns going down. So that's what they shaded in, 7 of them. So if I count, this is one column is going down, then we have another one here, so that's 2, another one 3, then another one 4, another one 5, and another 6, and the last one is 7. So we shade in 7 going down because it's 10 units going down. So 7 times 10 is altogether will be 70. Therefore 7/10 is equal to 70 of the 100 little units that we have here. So it is 70%. So that is one way to do it. The another way to do it is to use number lines to represent percent. So here we have what we call a double number line. So the first number line goes from 0 to 10. That's going to represent the number of people. So I go from 0 to 10. I'm going to put 10 marks. In other words, I'm going to have 10 spaces. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm breaking into 10 pieces, and I'm going to select number 7 because this represents the 7 people. 7 people out of the 10 people that prefer the toothpaste. Now, underneath, I'm going to draw another number line, but now I'm going to put the percent. And I'm going to go from 0 to 100 because the percents are compared to 100. I am going to divide it also into 10 pieces. So each piece represents 10%. So this will be 10%. The second line is 20%. The third line is 30%. The fourth line is 40, and then 40, 50, 60, and 70. So I'm going to see where they line up. So 7 people out of 10 is the same as 70 out of 100. So that is using a number line. So we're going to practice those. And the last method, and it's something that you are familiar with, is writing equivalent fractions to find the percent. So what you're going to do is you're going to write, and I'm going to do it over here for you. You're going to write the 7 out of 10, which is what they gave you. And you're going to compare to what percent out of 100, because you already know that every percent is out of 100. And then you're going to say, how do I go from 10 to 100? You got to multiply by 10. So you're going to do the same thing on the top. You multiply by 10. So 70 7 times 10 is 70. Therefore, your percent is 70%. So these are three different ways that you can find the percent of a number. Now let's look at the bottom of the page and let's look at the triad exercises. Jayla won 9 out of 10 video games. So we're going to underline that. Video games that she played. What percent of the video games did Jayla win? Okay, so let's use the last method because it's the fastest and you're used to it. So we're gonna write 9 over 10. That's what I have. This is what the number of video games, 9 out of the 10 in total. And we're going to write an equivalent fraction that compares to 100 because every percent is compared to 100. How do you go from 10 to 100? You multiply by 10. So if you multiply 9 times 10, that will give you 90. Therefore, Jayla won 90% of the game. So the answer is 90%. So once you do that, you just write this number on the top and put it with the percent signal. Let's look at the bottom. When using an equivalent fraction to find the percent, why do you write 100 as the denominator? Okay, because remember the definition of a percent. A percent is a rate in which the first term is compared to 100. So literally that's the answer. When looking for percent, we need a rate in which the first term is compared to 100. So make sure that you write that as a complete sentence. And now we're going to move on to the next page, 483. Okay, so we are now in example 2, and remember we have to learn how to use these number lines. So in example 2, it says each line segment represents 100%. Okay, so you have two segments here and they both represent 100%. But the segments are not the same length. Use equivalent rates to find the percent or part of each line segment from 0 to point A and B. All right, so we have here, we're looking from point A and B. So this is point A, okay, and we have from 0 to 100, and they want to know, we want us to use equivalent rates to find the percent. So we're looking for the percent or the part. So in this case, we know that we have a total of 2 inches from 0, 1 inch, 2 inches. So point A is on the 1 inch. So we're going to start with 1 over 2. The 1 represents the 1 inch, the 2 represents the 2 inches. So point A as 1 is at 1 out of the 2 inches. Now, we need to find the percent. So we're going to write an equivalent ratio. So 1 over 2 equals to something blank over 100. And how do we go from 2 to 100? We multiply by 50. So 1 times 50 is 50. So therefore, the 1 inch represents 50% because 1 out of 2 is half. 1 is half of 2. Therefore, 50 is half of 100. So that's 50%. Okay, so now let's look at this number line over here. So in this number line, we have now a total of 4 inches. And point B is at 1 inch. What percent would that be? So now instead of writing 1 over 2 like we did in the first one, it's going to be 1 over 4 because the total is 4. So 1 over 4, and we're going to find out what percent. So same thing, 1 over 4 equals to something over 100. How do you go from 4 to 100? You multiply by 25. So you multiply 1 times 25 gives you 25. So the second one is 25%. So 1 inch is 25% of 4 inches. So now let's look at the triad here at the bottom. Which point is 50% on the second line segment? So let's look at the second line segment. So it's this one over here. So we know that 1 inch is 25%. So I'm going to put 25% here because we just did that one. And I know 4 inches is 100. So that means that every 1 inch is 25%. So this is 25%. If I go to a second inch, it's going to be another 25%, which is going to give me a total of 50%. If I go another 25%, it's going to be 75%. And if I do another 25%, it gives me 100, which is the last one. But they want to know which one is 50%. So 50% is point C, which represents 2 inches. So point C, which equals 2 inches. Okay, now let's go to the next page. Oh, we have the same page, example 3. Use percents. You can use percents and mental math to find the length of a line segment. If CD, this is CD from here to here, represents 10%, so this CD is 10%. What is the length of a line segment that is 100%? Okay, so CD is 10%. What is the length of a line segment that is 100%? So let's see. So 10% out of the 100. Okay, remember the 10%, 10 out of 100 is equal to, remember the 10% is 4 inches. So I'm going to put the 4 inches here. 4 inches out of how many inches would be 100%? I don't know. So I'm going to put X. So the reason why my X is at the bottom, because that's what I'm trying to find out. I want to find out how many inches. So what is a line segment? The length of a line segment that is 100%. So that goes at the bottom. That's the inches. Here's the percent. So in this case, it's kind of like you said, okay, how do you go from 10 to 4? That's a division problem. Or you can do backwards. How do you go from 4 to 10? Okay, so that's what's going to go here. Now, another way that you can do it, and we're going to learn to do that, is we are going to do cross multiplication. And we did that in another video. So you're going to do 10 times x. You're going to multiply like that. 10 times x is 10x equals. And then you're going to do 100 times 4 is 400. But now I don't want 10x. I just want 1x. So we're going to divide by 10. We're going to divide by 10. And now I get that x equals 40 inches. Okay, so my answer is 40 inches. Part B, if EF represents 200, what is the length of a line segment that is 100? So EF is 200%. And we want to know what is the length of a line segment that is 100%. Okay, so we can use ratios by saying that 200%, 200 out of 100, remember, it's always out of 100. I know it looks weird because it's a bigger number, but my answer is going to be, this is what it is, 6%, 6 inches is 200%, is equal to 6 inches, because 6 inches is 200%, so the 6 inches go on the top. And at the bottom, we don't know how many inches is 100%, so that's going to be my x. So now I'm going to do the cross multiplication. 200 times x is 200x. Make sure that you copy this on your packet. 200x is equal to 6 times 100 is 600. And now we need to get rid of the 200 by dividing, because 200 is multiplying the x. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide, and now this cancels, and I have that x equals 600 divided by 200 is 6 over 2, and 6 over 2 is 3. Because 600 divided by 200 is 3. So therefore, a line segment that is 100% will be 3 inches. It will make sense because it will be half of 200, which is half of 6. And half of 6 is 3 inches. Okay, let's look at this question at the bottom. If CD is 4 inches, long and represents 100%, what is the length of a line segment that represents 25%? Okay, so let's do a picture, and we're going to do from C to D. And I know this whole thing is 4 inches. So I'm going to write 4 inches here. Now, this is 100%. That's what it said, that this is 100%. So I'm going to put 100%. And this is 0. From 0 to 100% is 4 inches. What is the length of a line segment that is 25%? So 25%, how many 25% are there in 100? So 100 divided by 25 is 4. That means 4 pieces. So I'll have to cut this into 4 pieces. And each one represents 25%. So this is 25%. This will be 2 pieces is 50. And 3 pieces is 75. And now when you look at inches, if the whole thing is 4 inches and it's 4 pieces, each one must be 1 inch. This is 1 inch. This is 2 inches. This is 3 inches. So 25% is 1 inch. 1 inch. Okay, page 384. So let's look at the key concept. So we know that a percent is the rate that compares a part to a whole. The second term of the rate is always 100. So always comparing to 100. The whole is always 100%. You can use number lines to represent percent, or you can use the grid, or you can write equivalent fractions. So we're going to go over these questions over here. How do you represent a rate with 100 as a whole? You put over 100. So you compare whatever they're giving you over 100. So you use percent. Okay? When writing a percent as a fraction, what number do you write as the whole? The answer is always 100. Always 100. Number 3, why are 10th, 5th, 4th, and half easy to express as percent? Okay, so 10th, because we can divide 100 by 10. We can divide 100 by 5. You can divide 100 by 4 and 100 by, remember, half is 2. Because those are easy percents that we know. 10%, 20%, 25%, and 50%. That's why, because those are numbers are divisible by 100, can be divided by those numbers. Number 4, why is the grid example 1 a good way to represent a percent? A grid is good because you can, every unit in that grid, remember a grid in example 1 had 100 units. Each unit, each little box represents 1%. Number 5, if CD in example 3 represents 100%, is the length of a line segment that is 300% longer or shorter than 4 inches? Okay, so if CD is 4 inches and that's 100%, and we're looking for a length that is 300%, 300 is more than 100, so therefore it's going to be more than 4 inches because it's greater than 100. Okay, now let's look at example 6. Write the percent of each figure that is shaded. So number 6, we have a circle. In the circle, first we need to find out how many pieces, my numerator is going to be how many pieces are shaded in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be my numerator. 4 pieces are shaded. How many pieces are there in total? So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is 4 out of 10. They want you to write it as a percent. So 4 out of 10 is equal to what number out of 100? So we put 100 and you see, okay, how do you go from 10 to 100? You multiply by 10. So 4 times 10 equals 40. So this will be 40% for number 6. Okay, let's look at number 7. Number 7, this is the 100 grid. So to find the percent of this grid, you just count how many little pieces are shaded in. So here we're going to count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. So this is 7%. So these are easy. You just count little boxes. Each box represents 1%. Okay, in 8 through 10, use an equivalent fraction to find each percent. Okay, so we have 1/5, and we want to find out what percent. Okay, we're looking for the percent. So they kind of like give me some boxes for me to fill in. So 1/5 is equal to, and then 20 over what? Remember, 100%. Okay, every percent is out of 100. So how do I go? 5 times what gives me 100? 5 times 20. That's where this 20 comes from, because 1 times 20 gives you 20. And then 20 out of 100 is 20%. This is just like saying that you have 100 grid and 20 of them are shaded in. So that's 20%. Let's look at number 9. So 3/10 is equal to 30 over what? It's always 100. Okay, how do you go from 10 to 100? You multiply by 10. How do you go from 3 to 30? You multiply by 10. So 30 out of 100 is 30%. Okay, you are going to complete number 10 and number 11. Let's go to the next page. Okay, so here you are going to practice. So you are going to complete this page, all of them, all these questions on page 485, and you are going to complete all the questions on page 486. Don't forget to upload these pictures into your Canvas page so you can get credit. Thank you and have a great day.